Here's what I think we should normalize in dating. Love bombing seems to be pretty common, especially for certain attachment styles. But I want to romanticize, I want to make popular the slow burn. Now, I'm somebody who identifies as the fearful avoidant type, which means I crave intimacy, but get anxious that way. But then when I get close to it, I kind of pull back. So I get to experience both avoidance and anxious attachment style. Yay me. And when I think about what it is that I'm really looking for in a partner, it's that I have to be able to trust them. And I fall for love bombing very easily. It's very effective at creating a false sense of connection and intimacy right off the bat. It feels all sorts of toxic goodiness in all the hormones that get released. It's that limerence phase, but it's not sustainable, right? And you don't actually know that person. And so this term slow burn, where you're building connection slowly over time to have a more sustainable kind of trajectory as opposed to taking off right off the bat, that feels safer to my nervous system. So now that I've kind of identified, I desire a slow burn relationship that builds in chemistry, connection, and compatibility over time. It kind of takes the pressure and the expectations off of this sort of love bomby kind of dynamic that can happen. And I also get very sensitive to love bombing that I know that's generally speaking, that's not somebody who's emotionally available because they're trying to make meaning out of our connection before they've gotten to know me. That's a little cray-cray. It feels good though. It feels good to have all those amazing things said about you and that somebody would see you and the value of you with barely knowing you. Like I was out there looking for you and I just couldn't find you and here you are. I had somebody say that to me within like a week of us meeting. That's a little quick. But it felt good at the time and I didn't know what love bombing was. So cool. Calling me the one. And then all these amazing things that they said about me, proclaiming that we were going to build a life together within like a couple weeks. And then by 6 weeks, his avoidant attachment style reared its ugly head. He freaked out. We were getting too close. That ended that. So then we learned what all attachment styles are. So when I look at how effective that was in getting me attached and how long it took me to get over that, way longer than we ever dated, I kind of like the idea of the slow burn. And when I go into dating now with the idea of I like a slow burn feels safe to me, I can kind of remove those expectations that they should feel or say anything very early on for me to feel like this is progressing into something. I can take my expectations down some of like, we don't have to text all day, every day. In fact, what are you doing that you have to text me all day, every day? How much free time do you have? Do we have to text all day? I would rather meaningful connections that are consistent and slowly getting more involved with our day-to-day life as opposed to we've just matched on a dating app and now we're texting all day, every day. You're sending me good morning text, good night text, wondering where I am. I can't even work for like an hour without having 3 or 4 text messages to read from you. I am all for connecting with someone, but on a slower pace as opposed to let's dive right in. Let's pretend like this is a relationship without actually getting to know the person. And I will say the hardest part for me getting out of a very long-term relationship, I was married for 10 years, we were together 13, jumped into a relationship kind of right after we separated and then have been single for almost 2 years. I was used to having someone as a part of my day-to-day life. That's what happens when you're in a long-term relationship is that you've built a life together. So going into the dating world, I immediately jumped back into having someone in my day-to-day life and expecting them to be a part of my day-to-day life. And we talk through everything and he knows everything about my day, but you have to learn to date again, which some of that you don't give people access to that much of your life right off the bat. It's got to burn slowly to last longer. Otherwise, it's like a firecracker. It bursts in a great blaze of glory and then fizzles out into nothing. So what sounds better to you? Love bombing, the high intensity right off the bat. We're just all in this together before we really have spent any real time together, before we faced any challenges in life, before we've even gone through a full hormonal cycle as a woman. Or the slow burn, where you get to know each other gradually over time in a really healthy, organic kind of way. Which one appeals to you? There's no right or wrong, but one might get you the result of a longer term relationship. I don't know. Thoughts?